Hi, welcome to EPG Pathshala Spanish. I'm Rajiv Saxena and I teach Spanish in the Center of Spanish, Portuguese, Italian and Latin American Studies in the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. We are in the paper entitled Intermediate Grammar. In this module, we are going to be talking about the imperative mood of the verbs with say. So, the objective of this module is that in the previous modules, we have studied how imperative mood is a unique feature of Spanish grammar. In this module, you will study the use of the imperative mood of the Spanish verbs with say, which has a very different composition than the English imperatives. So, please be very careful that we will not talk about imperatives in general, but the variations in the uses of the imperatives with specific verbs. So, in this module, we are only going to be talking about the imperative mood of the Spanish verbs with say, which is very different from the English imperatives. Let us start with some examples of the regular verbs which are reflexive and have say as a suffix after their root forms. So, we are going to start off with some examples of the regular verbs which are reflexive and also have a say as a suffix after their root forms. For the AR ending, we have verbs like lavarse or to wash oneself, to lávate, affirmative, to no te laves, negative, usted lávese, affirmative, usted no se lave, negative. I repeat, for the AR ending lavarse, which is also a reflexive verb, how do we do it in the command, in the mandato? The conjugation is in the following manner. Tu lávate, affirmative. Tu no te laves, negative command. Usted lávese, affirmative command. Usted no se lave, negative command. Vosotros lavaos, affirmative command. Vosotros no os laváis, negative command. Ustedes lávense, affirmative command. Ustedes no se laven, negative command. I repeat, vosotros lavaos, affirmative. Vosotros no os laváis, negative command. Ustedes lávense, affirmative. Ustedes no se laven, negative command. For the AR ending verb, the ER ending, we can see that it is a bit different than the AR that we have just done. So let us pick up another verb ending of the ER ending verb and let's pick up atreverse for example. So atreverse is to dare or to have the courage of doing something. So the atreverse in the mandato or in the command form is atrévete, affirmative. No te atrevas, negative command. Atrévase usted, affirmative. No se atreva, negative command. So I repeat, atrévete, tú, affirmative. No te atreves, tú, negative. Atrévese usted, affirmative. No se atreva, negative, usted. Atreveos, affirmative, for vosotros. No os atrevéis, negative, for vosotros. Atrévanse, affirmative, for ustedes. And no se atrevan, negative, for ustedes. I repeat, atreveos, for affirmative. No os atreváis, for negative. Atrévanse, for affirmative. And no se atrevan, for negative. For the ER ending, we can see another verb which is, for example, subirse, which is to climb. So, how do we do the commands in this? Súbete, tú, affirmative. No te subas, negative command. Súbase, affirmative. And in the same manner, I repeat, súbete, tú, affirmative. No te subas, negative. Subase, affirmative. and no se suba usted, negative. Let us continue with vosotros. Subaos, affirmative. No os subáis, vosotros, negative. Subanse is affirmative for ustedes and no se suban ustedes, negative. I repeat, no se suba, negative. Subaos, affirmative. No os subáis, negative. Subanse, affirmative. No se suban, negative. The best would be to take out a printout from the e-text and have these verb lists along with you when you are here listening to this video. Once you have the text in front of you and my explanations, it will become very easy for you to see the patterns and to know how to do the conjugations of this very important mood, which is the imperative mood in Spanish, the mandatos in Spanish. Now let us have a look at some more examples. Son las 9. Levántate. It's 9 o'clock. Get up. Son las 9. Levántate. No te atreves ir a solo. Don't you dare to go alone. No te atreves a ir solo. Another example would be, no se suban a la estatua, por favor. Please do not climb up the statue. No se suban a la estatua, por favor. Please do not climb up the statue. Now let us look at some irregular verbs with se. We have seen the regular verbs. So now let's talk about irregular verbs and how do they change with the se, the reflexive. So let us talk about vestirse. Here the E changes into I. Of vestirse, the E changes into I. And the following is the conjugation. Vístete, affirmative. No te vistas, negative. Vistase, affirmative. And no se vista, negative. Another set of conjugations would be vestíos, affirmative for vosotros. No os vistáis, negative for vosotros. Vistanse, affirmative for ustedes, and no se vistan, negative for ustedes. I repeat, vestíos, affirmative for vosotros, no os vestíais, negative for vosotros. Vistanse, affirmative for vosotros, and no se vistan, negative for vosotros. Just like vestirse, reírse can also be conjugated in the same way. Another different example would be of the verb despertarse. So, we have seen like vestirse, reírse can also be conjugated in the same way. But let us go on to another example which is completely different, which would be despertarse, where the E changes into IE. So, the conjugation of despertarse in the mandato or the imperative is in the following manner. Despiértate, affirmative. No te despiertes, negative. Despiértese, affirmative. No se despierte, negative. I repeat, despiértate, affirmative. No te despiertes, negative. Despiértese, affirmative. And no se despierte, negative. Another set of the same in the plural would be despertaos, vosotros, affirmative. No os despertéis, negative, vosotros. Despiértense, affirmative, ustedes. And no se despierten, negative, ustedes. I repeat, despertaos, affirmative, for vosotros. No os despertéis, negative, for vosotros. Despiértense, affirmative, for ustedes, and no se despierten, negative, for ustedes. Other verbs which could be conjugated in the same way as divertirse, sentarse, etc. However, we have seen divertirse and sentarse is also conjugated in the same sense. We would now like to move on to another example, which would be of acostarse, for example, where the U of acostarse changes into UE. So, the conjugation of acostarse in the imperative is acuéstate, affirmative tú. No te acuestes, negative command tú. Acuéstese, affirmative tú. And no se acueste, negative tú. I repeat, acuéstete, affirmative. No te acuestes, negative. Acuéstese, ustedes, affirmative. No se acueste, and ustedes, negative. Acostaos is affirmative and no os acostáis is negative. So, acostaos for vosotros, positive, and no os acostáis for vosotros, negative. What happens in the ustedes? In the ustedes, it becomes acuéstense, affirmative, and ustedes no se acuesten in the negative for ustedes. Just like acostarse, we can also conjugate dormirse. So once you learn the pattern of acostarse, you already know the pattern of dormirse also. It's as simple as that. So some of the other irregular verbs which we have to look into and see the pattern would be the following. Like example, ponerse. Ponte for affirmative tú, no te pongas, negative tú. Póngase, affirmative, usted, and no se ponga, negative, usted. I repeat, ponte, affirmative, tú, no te pongas, negative, tú. Pónganse, affirmative, usted, no se ponga, negative, usted. Now, what happens when you're talking about this in the plural? In the plural, it becomes poneos, affirmative, for vosotros. No os pongáis, negative, vosotros. Pónganse, ustedes, affirmative. No se pongan, ustedes, negative. I repeat, poneos is affirmative, vosotros. No os pongáis, negative, vosotros. Pónganse, affirmative, ustedes, and no se pongan, affirmative, negative, for ustedes. Another important verb which we use quite often and in commands also is a verb like irse. Vete, for example, is affirmative. Tú. No te vayas is negative. Tú. Váyase is affirmative for usted and no se vaya is negative for usted. I repeat, for irse, the conjugation in the mandatos or in the imperative is vete for affirmative tú, no te vayas, negative tú, váyase for affirmative usted and no se vaya for negative usted. Idos is affirmative of ir in the plural, which is vosotros, and no os vayáis is negative vosotros. Váyanse is affirmative for ustedes and no se vayan is negative of ustedes. I repeat, idos is affirmative of vosotros and no os vayáis is negative of vosotros. Váyanse is affirmative of ustedes and no se vayan is negative of ustedes. How do we do the conjugation of the verb caerse in preterite? Sorry. How do we do the conjugation of caerse in the mandato, which is to give an order? We do the conjugation in the following manner. Caete is affirmative. No te caigas is negative. Caigase is affirmative. No se caiga is negative. I repeat, caete is affirmative in tú. No te caigas is negative tú. Caigase is affirmative usted. No se caiga is negative of usted. Let us move on to the plurals. How do we do the conjugation of caer in the plural? Caeos is affirmative for vosotros. No os caigáis is negative of vosotros. Cáiganse is affirmative of ustedes and no se caigan is negative of ustedes. I repeat, caeos is affirmative of vosotros, no os caigáis is negative of vosotros. Cáiganse is affirmative of ustedes and no se caigan is negative of ustedes. We should keep in mind that the actions in the imperative mood are always in the present. Adverbial expressions of time may be used to stress the urgency of the message or direct the listener to follow the command at a certain time. So remember that the actions in imperative mood are always in the present. Adverbial expressions of times can be incorporated to stress the urgency of the message or to direct the listener to follow the command at a certain time. So, for example, we have abre la puerta, open the door. Haz el trabajo ahora, do the work now. Haz el trabajo ahora, or abre la puerta. If the action is to be expected to be carried out later, there might be an indication of time with appropriate verbs or adverbial phrases. So, if you expect that the action is going to be carried out later, then there might be an indication of time with appropriate adverbs or adverbial phrases. Paga la cuenta la semana que viene. So, pay the bill the next week. So, by saying la semana que viene, you know that this is to be an action to be carried out later. Paga la cuenta la semana que viene. Or another example which is good is trae el dinero mañana. Bring the money tomorrow. Trae el dinero mañana. How do we do the informal to affirmative command forms? It is very easy to learn commands if you learn how to conjugate the verbs properly. For the familiar affirmative commands, use the third person singular form of the present indicative. I repeat, for the familiar affirmative commands, use the third person singular form of the present indicative. So, if we drop the infinitive endings AR, ER and IR from the radical and add the corresponding endings for L and Elia, it gives the conjugation for the imperative too. So, the trick that we are trying to teach you here is that for the familiar affirmative commands, use the third person singular form of the present indicative and drop the infinitive endings AR, ER and IR for the radical and add the corresponding ending for L and Elia. It gives the conjugation for the imperative too. For example, comprar, to buy, becomes compra. Aprender, to aprender or to learn becomes aprende. Escribir, to write becomes escribe. So it's very simple. How do we do it? Let us continue with more examples. Gritar, to yell becomes grita. Beber, to drink becomes bebe. Abrir, to open becomes abre. I repeat, gritar, to yell becomes grita. Beber, to drink becomes bebe. Abrir, to open becomes abre. So, once we see the pattern, it becomes very simple for us how to conjugate it. Again, let us move on to other examples so that you can learn how to conjugate the imperative mood in Spanish. Formar is to form. The conjugation is forma. Meter, to put in, is meter. So, we conjugate it as mete. Pedir, to ask for, becomes pide. I repeat, formar becomes forma. Meter becomes mete. And pedir becomes pide. In the same sense, we can now put these into sentences and use these verbs in the imperative. So we'll say, compra los regalos, buy the gifts, aprende las reglas, learn the rules, escribe la respuesta ahora, write the answer now. I repeat, compra los regalos, aprende las reglas, and escribe la respuesta ahora. Compra los coches, buy the car, aprende las cosas, learn the things, and escribe la carta ahora, write the letter now. So we can see that it is very easy to do the conjugations in imperative. All you have to do is to use the third person singular. Compra los coches, aprende las cosas, escribe la carta ahora. In the two affirmative commands of ER and IR verbs, we have the same verb endings. So what do? We have to keep in mind the context. And we also have to keep in mind that exclamation marks may be used to indicate the speaker's urgency. So when you're writing in Spanish, you can use exclamation marks to indicate the urgency of the speaker in this scenario. The context and punctuation will help you distinguish the third person singular present indicative form. For example, a comma tells you that the speaker is addressing a person with imperative. For example, Iqbal, comma, trae la maleta. Iqbal, comma, bring the suitcase. Or vis-a-vis, Iqbal trae la maleta. Iqbal brings the suitcase. So, by putting the comma, we know that this is an imperative for Iqbal. Iqbal trae la maleta. Oh, Iqbal trae la maleta. So, one is just a statement and the other one where the comma is put, then you know that it is a completely direct mandato, an imperative mood. The speaker's tone in the communication will also be helpful in distinguishing between the command and the other forms. So, for example, we have two sentences which is abra la puerta, open the door, or abre la puerta, where he or she opens the door. So, by knowing the speaker's tone, we can distinguish between the command and the other forms. Abre la puerta or abre la puerta. In the same sense, we can also have come la carne, eat the meat. Come la carne, he or she eats the meat. I repeat, come la carne, eat the meat as an imperative, or come, comma, la carne, he or she eats the meat. The irregular forms of the familiar to command, we will look at them right now. Some verbs have irregular conjugations for informal to form. Let us look at the examples of them. You can have a detailed look from them in the verb charts given at the end of the whole chapter. So, for right now, just have a look at the irregular conjugations of some informal to forms. For example, decir becomes di, hacer becomes haz, ir becomes ve for tú. Di, haz and ve, decir, hacer and ir. Poner becomes pon, salir becomes sal, tener becomes ten, and venir becomes ven. Poner, pon, salir, sal, ser, se, tener, ten, and venir, ven. Let us move on to formal commands. While giving commands in an informal way is more prevalent in most areas of the Spanish-speaking world, it is still appropriate to use the formal commands when giving a direct command to a person or persons. For example, people whom you are unsure to address, people whom you are meeting for the first time or you consider unfamiliar, to whom you owe respect because of title, rank, or age, or whom you encounter in business, commercial, or professional settings. Many forms of imperatives are similar to some forms of subjunctive in Spanish. You have not studied subjunctive yet, but you will use the knowledge of the imperatives when you deal with the subjunctive. To conjugate the verbs, just follow the third person conjugation, drop the last vowel, and add the vowel as given below, which we're going to be talking about right now. So, for cantar, canta, it's an AR ending verb, so we add E, it becomes cante. For comer, it is come, it's an ER ending verb, so we just add an A, coma. Vivir, vive, it's an ER ending verb, so we add a V, viva. I repeat, cantar becomes cante instead of canta because we change the ending to E. Comer becomes coma because we change the A to A. And vivir, vive becomes viva as we change the A to A, viva. So, the song Viva España is from Long Live Spain and it is an imperative. It's a command or it's a desire that long live Spain. Let us move on to other verbs of this category. Hablar, habla becomes hable because you're changing the last vowel. Beber, bebe becomes beba as we change the E to A, beba. Pedir, pide becomes pedi, pida as we are changing the E to A. I repeat, habla becomes hable, bebe becomes beba, and pide becomes pida in the mandatos. So, to conclude, we would like to say that we have tried to cover everything about imperatives and their uses with say, but these will be dealt with in a more detailed manner in the advanced grammar paper. We need to do more exercises and how to use it. Once learnt, imperatives are fun to use. So go ahead, learn it and practice it and become perfect. Muchas gracias.